Hey guys, and welcome back to Dan's Pro Shop. Hopefully, if I did this correctly, this will kind of be like an in order kind of series thing. This we got here is a 2007 Club Car DS. This is the gas version with a Kawasaki one lunger. They made this thing electric, made it gas, whatever. But either way, what we're doing today does not matter what kind of power plant you're running on this thing because we are doing some auxiliary lighting switch stuff. So, in a previous video, which I will link here or down in the description, we went ahead and added an aftermarket light kit for this thing, which, dude, it worked out freaking fantastic. However, I was not super stoked about the factory harness or the aftermarket harness that this light kit came with. It works, don't get me wrong, it does work fine. However, I want to upgrade this thing. We're going to put in like an auxiliary control relay that is turned on and off by the key, and we're going to add our own switch panel with some extra goodies in this thing. So if you're interested about upgrading, the control circuitry and or the lighting circuit in your cart, stick around because we're going to get into it. All right, now for those of you that are curious about what's going on here, I got myself a nice little switch panel thing off the Amazons. I was digging, curious about a way that I can make things better. Because if you guys frequent the channel, you know that friends don't let friends drive stock. OE is fine as long as you're fine with OE. But here at the Pro Shop, we ain't. You can make anything better as long as you have the want, willing, and ambition to do so. So this guy here is a NiLight, like dual gang, whatever outlet. There are count them, two rocker switches that are illuminated, by the way. And we even have this cute little dual USB charger thing with an integrated digital voltmeter so you can monitor the state of charge of your charging system. So if you do have a 48 volt or whatever electric cart, this thing will tell you that. And if you have a gas cart, it will tell you, hey, you got 12 point whatever volts on your charging system. So I don't know about you, but like whenever you get into a car or a machine or whatever, there's no such thing as having too many gauges. So being able to have an actual digital voltmeter on the dashboard, I'm super stoked about it. And then now we can charge our phones or, like a Bluetooth speaker or whatever. This is the goal, what we're going to be putting in here. This is all fine and dandy, but this thing is downstream. Now, I mentioned at the beginning there that I'm going to be adding a relay for a control circuit. Now, this thing is totally unnecessary, but again, I overbuild crap and I kind of have like a good background in like automotive and how stuff's supposed to work. So if you just wire this thing hot to the battery, yes, it will work. However, if you bump this thing with your knee or something when you're getting out of it at the end of the night and your lights come on or your accessory comes on or whatever, this thing is going to drain your battery regardless of the position of the key switch. I'm not a fan. So what we're going to do is add a 5-pin 12-volt relay in line in front of this thing. So not only are our headlights going to be controlled by this relay from the key switch, but any other thing that you plug into this is going to be contingent on the position of your key, just like your car. You go ahead at the end of the day, turn your car off, get out of it, turn the key, you get out. Everything is conditioned on the position of your key switch. So I'm going to run some heavy 10 gauge wire from the battery up to the dashboard into this control relay, and the key will turn this relay on and off. Out of this relay is going to go into and be the supply power for this switch panel. So as long as the key's on, this will function properly the way that it's supposed to. But in the event you turn the key off, it will kill this relay and kill everything connected to this. It's just like a good fail-safe thing, and not to mention the fact that we're using a relay, not all that power is just going through a switch or whatever. It's just much better to run big power through a relay. That's the best way that I can come up with to do this, and hopefully you guys like it. So we may as well start with this. Now, I apologize for having this kind of disassembled, but I had this already out from installing the light kit. Like I mentioned, if you're curious about how all this went, please do check out the installation video for the light kit in its stock configuration. But this is like the main part of the dash here that I wanted to do. I found this switch panel, which don't worry, I will link everything down in the description for everything we're going to do here today. This thing is almost exactly the perfect size to go right here where this warning sticker is. So I'm going to use the same process that I did for cutting out the headlights in the front and the rear. Use like a roto-zip rotary tool thing, cut out an appropriate size here right in the middle, and mount this. And then we're going to have to find someplace suitable behind here for this control relay, wire this thing up. But hopefully this isn't that bad of a project. We should be able to get in and out of here not too bad, but with a serious gain in functionality. So the best way I'm figuring on doing this thing here is that you can see here, this plate is simply just a face plate. And all of these switches come out of here. Since there's not a template that came with the kit, I'm going to take note of where all this wiring goes, remove all of these switches, and then use this face plate as a template for what I'm cutting out. So excuse me for a minute, I'll rip all this stuff apart, and then we'll actually get to cutting on the dashboard. All right, here we are with the wiring and the switches removed. That leaves us with this plate. So the goal is I'm going to go over to the cart, trace out all of these circles, and then kind of make a hole a little bit bigger than that. So it's a little bit crude. However, this faceplate is pretty forgiving. We got about, I don't know, 9/16 of an inch around the perimeter to cover any mess ups. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and get doing to that. Love you, bud. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Cool. So the plan here is I'm going to mount this little SOB right up about here. Go ahead and do whatever you want / need to make this look as best you possibly can. I'm kind of just lining up different parts on the sticker here. Then I'm going to trace out, at very least, the outside edge of the two outsides here. And then we'll go back on here with a straight edge and kind of widen that up a little bit. I don't know, you get the point here. Alrighty, we kind of got this thing mounted up and drew up and whatever we're looking to do here. I got myself a nice little cordless rotary tool. It's the exact same thing that I used for the headlight kit and it worked great. So I'm going to do the exact same thing here. So we'll just go ahead and pick an edge and start going around the outside of our marker mark here. Wow. That was about as dirty as it could possibly be. But thank goodness this bezel is going to cover up a lot of our sins. So let me go ahead and grab something to clean this up and we should be good to go. Yeah. I think that is going to work perfect. And it lined up about where we wanted it. So we'll go ahead and reassemble our switch panel. Come back over here and get to installing. Alrighty, back over here. If you give me just a moment here, I will reassemble all these switches, put everything back where it's supposed to be. Then I'll meet you back over there. We'll drill some holes and hopefully get to running on this thing. This thing all back together, and I got to tell you, I got to give NiLight a shout out for this thing because this is like a super easy, user-friendly cluster, especially since it comes pre-wired. The only thing you got to do is give this thing ground and hot, And then the two exposed prongs are the output for whatever you want. So, you know, front light, rear light, auxiliary light, whatever you want to do. And then the gauges and the USB charger just works off of the module that it's in. So this thing is super simple. I think we're going to go ahead and install this. Well, maybe we'll run the wire from the battery to that control relay first, because now we got that nice little access hole in the dashboard to maybe give you a little more room to see what's going on. So we'll go ahead and do that before we mount this thing permanently. So I told you guys I was going to do this a little bit overkill. What I have here is 10 gauge stranded wire, which is like way overkill for what this is. But you know, now after I do this, I will have a 10 gauge supply from the battery to the dashboard. So for whatever I want to down the line, I know that I'm going to have more than enough ampacity in this wire to do whatever I want to down the line. You know, add chargers, add lights, whatever. I just know that I'll have access to it up in the dashboard. So we're going to run this thing, put some lugs on it, connect one end to the battery, run the other end up to the dashboard, hook into that relay, and then we're going to have to do a little bit of thinking and tie into the ignition switch, and then that's how that relay is going to be turned on and off. Well, as I was putting this wire together, I was thinking, and I may have fibbed to you. So, yes, I would like to run the 10 gauge up there. However, if you saw the video beforehand about me running the harness for the headlights, that's like really the only good way to get things up behind the dashboard in like the factory location where everything's safe and it's not going to get tore out or anything. I'm not really sure right now I want to go through that again. So the harness that's there for the headlights, yes, it is a significantly smaller gauge, but at the same time, I think it'll be okay. So at least for right now, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to use the part of the harness that's already up in the dashboard. The lugs for the battery are already down where they're supposed to be. And then we can use that for our hot and our ground that's going to connect up to that control relay. And then all we really need to add is just a jumper from the coil of the relay to the hot on the key. So I'm thinking for simplicity's sake, that'll be by far the easiest way to do that. I still would like to do this, but I really don't want to do that right now. So that's one of those one day, maybe never things. I don't know. But we'll get over there and see what we got working with. Alrighty, so what we're working with here, up under this dash piece, in case you guys are unfamiliar with how relays work, there is a coil circuit that takes significantly less amperes to turn on than whatever you're going to be using, I promise you. So we're going to use the ground from our original wiring harness here for the headlights that's hooked up to the ground of the battery. We are going to put the power from this harness onto pin 30 of here, which is like the main supply power circuit. And then we are going to use the back of the key switch here. I just got to find a terminal that is keyed hot, and then that is going to control the coil that will turn this thing on and off. So this relay will only be on whenever the key is on. That's the plan anyway. And there is a nice little bracket back here that kind of holds the steering column. We're going to mount this relay up to that. Now, in case you're looking at this thing wondering, oh, that's a weird one, don't worry. I will link all this stuff in the description so you can get what you need. Now, excuse me for my fat head in here, but it's difficult for me to fit, so I'll show you once I get this stuff installed. So, I know I may have jumped ahead a little bit on you guys here, but I kind of got caught up in myself and actually forgot that I was filming this. So, pretty well, this is about as simple as it can be. We saw that hole all drilled out there, and then I just simply attached it with some machine screws because I wasn't crazy about the idea of just threading like drywall screws into this. So now we have a lock washer and a nut on the back. Back in here is where that relay went. So there just so happened to be a hole already in that aluminum strut, and I just utilized that, put a machine screw, and bolted that thing clean up. And then we have our wiring here, and then this red wire right here, I tapped into this lug because I used my multimeter and found out that when the key is turned on, this lug is hot. When the key is turned off, that lug is off. So my switches are only on when the key is on. So even if I have the lights on, okay, lights on, if I turn the key off and forget to shut my lights off, everything works with the key. Now, I know that this looks like a lot going on here, so let's head over to the bench so I can better explain what's happening. So guys, excuse my lack of ability to draw here, but I'm going to try to make you a little diagram to better explain what we just saw in there because you can't really see it. So here we have a typical 5-pin 12-volt automotive relay. This one just happens to have a little fancy hangy thing. This is the exact same one I used over there. Now, a typical relay, we have 30, 85, 86, 87, and 87A. Now, I know that probably sounds like Russian to most of you here, and this picture probably won't help a lot of you unless you know what you're looking at. But 30, this is where our supply power comes in. This is where I jumped off of the main harness for the lighting harness. This supplies our common side of the switch. The normally closed side of the switch is 87A. The normally open side of the switch, meaning the one that's usually off, is 87. And then this guy here, 85 and 86, this is the coil. So you need a hot on one side and a ground on the other side. This activates the magnet that switches this back and forth. So I simply took a ground to 86 and I supplied the hot leg from the key switch, that last one that I just showed you that turns on and off with the key, to 85. So whenever I have the key on, this coil is activated, this switch is closed to 87. So it effectively takes supply voltage from 30 to 87, but only when this coil is activated by the key. So to start this off, we have our supply lines, ground, and 12-volt DC. Fine and dandy. Put a couple terminations there. Then we have our coil termination there and there. We need ground and 12-volt switched. Then we have our switched portion of it normally open. This is our pin 30, 12-volt. And then over here, we have our pin 87 that goes to the input of our switch bank. And then down here, we will have our 12 volts from the key switch. So how are we going to put all of this together? So this is the factory lighting harness that we already had installed. This is the coil for the relay that we added. This is the contact for the relay that we added. And then this is the terminal on the key that we need to put into this circuit to make everything work properly. How exactly are we going to do this? Well, I know right off the bat that I needed 12 volts from the key to go to one side of my coil to turn it on. Well, the other side of the coil, I need it to be grounded. So let's go ahead and attach that to the ground from the lighting harness. I also know that I need number 30, my supply side of the contact, to have 12 volts power. So I'm going to take that right from there. Now, where does this need to go? This guy goes out to our switch box, and that's where everything goes. Now, this switch box, cool, we have 12 volt supply to the switch. However, these switches are illuminated, so they also need a ground. So all I did here was attach this ground right to the same place on the coil. So we have a shared ground coming from our supply right up here to the relay. So I know that was kind of difficult to see, but on the ground terminal of the relay, I included both the ground for the switch box and the supply ground. I know this looks like craziness and everything, but there's really not much going on here, I promise you. Go ahead and give this a couple more function tests. Key on, lights, lights, key, key. I'd say everything works freaking fantastically. We have a voltage readout here. We got our outlets. Now, I just got to button this thing back up and put it back together. Do a little wire management, make sure everything's in a good location, not getting pinched. But let me go ahead and do this, and then I'll come back to you guys. Once I get this thing all slammed back together. So now that everything's complete and installed here, let me give you a little bit better look on how everything came out. I think this is like the most clean look that I could possibly come up with. The original factory switch that came with that headlight harness that comes from the battery there, the one switch was originally supposed to go there. And I wasn't crazy that it was only one switch and just, I don't know, call me crazy, I wanted more. But this is a nice lit up toggle switch. And then this guy right here, not only is it a digital voltmeter, but we have two USB-A outlets. And the best part here, everything comes on with the key switch. So here we have what they call a night light, just so you can see these things. Then whenever they're turned on, you have a big light up top. This second switch here right now doesn't do anything, but now I have a free switch to do stuff with later. And I love the fact that this guy here, I have a digital voltmeter, so I know the state of the charging system on this cart. And everything turns off with the key. Exactly what I was going for. Well, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this little one. I know there wasn't much to it. I mean, yeah, you kind of got to think through what's going on here. This isn't just a snap together, like there's no instruction manual for this. We're kind of just doing things. But I got to tell you, I'm super happy with the way that it is, specifically because everything is controlled by the key. It's like, yes, I have a separate switch for my headlights, which is fine and dandy, so they don't have to be on during the day. But, you know, sometimes you get a little careless or somebody else is driving this, doesn't know what's going on. You know, you don't want to accidentally leave your accessory on for no reason. And I just feel better now that there's a relay in there. I don't have to worry about anything. And I know it's done right, and I know it's going to work. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, if you are interested in doing this for yourself, I will add everything that you need to do this down in the description, including this aftermarket light kit, just in case you didn't catch that other video. But like I mentioned, that first video is a heck of a precursor to this. Like, it kind of led up to the whole point of doing this project. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and it gives you a little ambition to do something like this for yourself. But yeah, so go for it, guy. Let me know how it goes. We'll see you on the next one.